Good morning, folks, and welcome back to Mobility Matters. I'm your host, Javier Betancourt, Executive Director of the Miami-Dade County Citizens Independent Transportation Trust, or CITT. We're the agency of Miami-Dade County charged with overseeing your half-penny sales tax for transportation. And by the way, we are looking for board members. So if you're interested in serving on the CITT and being a part of the transit solution, please visit our website and consider applying. We're at miamidade.gov/CITT. But enough of that, because we want to turn our attention now to my special guest, Mariana Price. Mariana is the Municipal Program Manager for the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust, someone who I've known and worked with for many years across many organizations. Mariana, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Javier. It's a pleasure to be here. I knew this day was coming. So it's
and you
a
were
pleasure.
looking forward to it.
I've been looking forward to it ever since. So thank you for finally having me here on the show. And yeah.
So this is your first podcast, I take it?
This is my first podcast.
The first of many to come, I'm sure.
We're
going to make you famous.
We'll see.
So Mariana, you're the Municipal Program Manager
Yes.
for the CITT. What does that mean? What is it you do?
It is synonymous with one of the best jobs in the world.
And one of the best organizations.
One of the best organizations in the world, absolutely. So as Municipal Program Manager, I am responsible for the Municipal Program, which is the portion of the CITT that oversees the way the half-penny sales surtax is used within the 33 of the 34 participating municipalities in the county.
And so just on that note, what people may not know is that 20% of that half penny that's collected, and we're collecting about $400 million a year.
Yes.
So 20% of that goes to the cities, right? And is distributed
about that, yeah.
By population.
Right. And the rest goes to the county. So I oversee the portion that goes to the cities. Right. And that's determined based upon population. Mm-hmm. And that gets reassessed every year. And it is also determined, of course, by the surtax collected every year. So it also depends on our economy. So
the cities get 20%. Larger cities get more, smaller cities a little less. What are they supposed to be doing with these funds?
So,
and what are they doing?
When we zoom into the 20% that go to the cities, and I say that lightly because it's really 23 point something
Right.
percent.
It's grown a little over the years.
It's grown a little, yes. But there's also another divide of another 20 and 80. And in our world, we have the word transit and transportation. And everywhere else, those would be, synonyms.
Right.
But in our world, it's important. It's an important distinction because transit is more towards mobility efforts, getting around, moving around, enhancing projects and infrastructure towards that end. And transportation is more so your run-of-the-mill public works type projects, such as roadway improvements, filling potholes, restriping, clearing trees that are in the way of traffic.
Traffic calming, et cetera.
Yes, exactly. So the emphasis is on the transit portion of it. Of course, we can't require all municipalities to spend 100% of the funds that they receive on transit, although we would love that. That is best case scenario. And some absolutely do, and we applaud that. But we recognize at the CITT that that's not possible with every municipality. Mm-hmm. Every municipality is on their own transportation transformation, if you will. Right. They every municipality wasn't incorporated in the same year. They are, and every municipality has their own challenges, has their own opportunities. So the city of Miami is very different from this town of Medley. They have different challenges, especially like when you look at zoning. Is one city more residential than another? Other cities are more commercial. And what does that mean in terms of what sorts of transportation infrastructure makes the most sense for them?
So the program is really flexible in order to allow municipalities to kind of address their own unique kind of characteristics and challenges.
Exactly.
Is what you're saying, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So we have the transit portion, and then we have the transportation portion. Yes. And transportation, as you said, is some roadway work, traffic calming, things of that nature. Maybe even bicycle pedestrian facilities.
Yes.
Let's start though concentrating on the transit portion. What are cities doing in the transit realm?
So the thing that we love to see the most is when they spend their money on fixed route circulators. This is the trolley buses that you see, the shuttles, And for example, North Miami just procured 4 new shuttles to replace the shuttles that they had before. These are more so long, like trolley buses that replace the shuttles that they had before. They can seat more people. And also, in addition to the transit, is on demand. So Freebie is one of our on-demand contractors and providers. Many municipalities are starting to use Freebie, and we currently have 10 municipalities that have on-demand services in one form or another. Go Connect is another one that the county provides. Cutler Bay is currently the only town that utilizes Go Connect, but those are the 2 main things: fixed route circulators and on-demand services.
And for those who may not know these terms, so fixed route means, okay, you have a route.
You have a route,
fixed, as the name would imply.
Yes.
And, you know where the route is, you walk to it, and then you have to walk to your destination. On demand, conversely, is picks you up where you are, takes you exactly where you want to go along whatever route makes sense, right?
Yeah. For lack of a better way to phrase it, fixed route is structured and on demand is chaos within a confined area, right? There's
chaos.
Controlled chaos, exactly. So you can rely on fixed route circulators, buses, and trolleys to arrive at a certain point at a certain time of day on certain days of the week. So those are reliable in some sense, but then on demand, when those don't connect you. And the reason why we encourage on demand is because it often connects pedestrians and people trying to move around between that first and last mile, from your house to where the fixed route circulator picks you up.
Or the larger county transit system, right? So
Absolutely.
I know a lot of people are using both on demand and, in fairness, the fixed route circulators to connect to the county's transit, whether that be Metro Rail, Metro Mover, the bus system, right? And how do the cities actually work with the county to kind of make sure that it's all one seamless system and not 37 different systems, each operating independently?
That's a very good question. I'm going to backtrack a little bit and say that was actually the initial intention of these fixed route circulators, is that they would pick up residents from the municipalities and bring them towards the county's already established, system that they have for transportation. And that is still largely what is happening today, and that's connected by the on-demand. But how do we make sure that we are not duplicating efforts is through our interlocal agreement requirement. Every time a municipality starts a fixed route circulator or a new type of service of any kind, even if it's on demand, they need to have an interlocal agreement with our county's Department of Transportation and Public Works. Right. So what that entails is, a document that explains what do they plan on doing with their fixed route circulator, what days of the week, where does it run, do these stops make sense, are they overlapping too much with the county's already established bus routes?
Whole operating plan. Yeah.
Right. It's a whole operating plan, and they work together to make sure that it makes the most sense so that people who want to get around can get around, in the ways that they need to.
Right. And we facilitate that, right, at the CITT. Yes. So even though it's an interlocal between the county and the cities, we very much we bring them together.
We do. We try to be that glue that keeps them connected, and to make sure that when these ILAs expire, because they do expire, that we make sure that both parties are aware and that they start to prepare to have it renewed or updated for those scenarios. So.
And obviously the pandemic, had a huge impact on transit ridership, throughout the nation, if not the world.
It did.
And certainly the municipalities were not immune to that. How have you seen the growth in ridership rebound since the pandemic?
So it was a huge hit. Ridership went down 50%. We were almost at 15 million. We were 14 something million, and we went down to 7. And we are steadily making our way back. We're in 2023, so 3 years since the pandemic, and we are already over 10 million. So the final number hasn't come in just yet, but it's 10.7 right now.
Okay, so it's been a positive trend upwards. Obviously.
Absolutely, it has been, yes. Yeah. And surprisingly, the biggest area of growth is the on-demand portion. On-demand is becoming much more popular. When I'm looking at quarterly reports, I'm constantly impressed with how much more ridership there is in the on-demand than there is on fixed route circulators. But that's not to say that on-demand actually has a higher ridership than fixed route.
It's a small percentage of the overall
It's a
ridership.
much smaller percentage, yes.
But
fixed
it's growing
route,
fast.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And listen, it's the convenience factor, right? I mean, we love our fixed route circulators. They're very efficient at moving a lot of people. But it's hard to beat the efficiency of having a vehicle come pick you up exactly where you are and take you exactly where you want to go.
Yes.
Without having to kind of walk to and from a fixed route, right?
And one thing that I always look at with other municipalities that have other established transportation infrastructure is what is their climate condition like? You know, because that on-demand comes in really handy during our monsoon season.
It's hot and it's raining.
It's hot and it's raining. So either you're going to get wet because of the rain or because of because of your sweat. So you know, that creates that connection there so that you know, people can get to work not looking frazzled. And that's one of the things that I look to see, like, well, what can Miami do? What can Miami-Dade County do to make people get around without being the only single passenger in their vehicles, and to reduce traffic? You know, it's tough to beat that incentive, right? To have your own car and drive to work, but you know, we're certainly trying to encourage transit use.
And so in addition to encouraging transit, I know we're encouraging other modes of travel. So let's now kind of turn back over to the transportation or public works side of the equation. So what is it that we would like to encourage the municipalities to do more of? I mean, we talked about like first last mile, for instance. Are those eligible uses of surtax dollars?
We encourage that. One of the things that we are going to start leaning into more is encouraging bicycle and bike ped infrastructure, bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. So some municipalities already have a good bike ped game going on, and other municipalities, you know, might not know that that's really something that they can do with their surtax funds. I am constantly impressed in my job that I get all these great questions from municipalities about whether or not this or that is eligible. And I always encourage them, it's better to ask now than to ask forgiveness later, because the forgiveness is a hard price to pay. We don't want to withhold funds or, you know, to backtrack any funds that were not spent in an eligible manner. So with bike ped, that is definitely an eligible use of funds. And we do encourage it. I know we have several trust members who are excited about what municipalities can and will be able to do with it. Coral Gables already has a good bike ped movement in place, and Miami Beach does as well. So but at the same time, you know, this is not a one size fits all. Bike ped is not necessarily something that works for every municipality. So,
or something they can afford. And if they have other priorities and they don't have additional funds to do it.
Have they, you know, gone through A, B, and C, which are most important before getting to bike ped, which is, you know, it would be a nice feature to have, but, you know, if they don't already have their fixed route circulator servicing, you know, enough times during the day, then that might not be the best option for them.
Right. And so, you know, let's go to compliance for a second, because you kind of touched on it earlier about withholding and recapturing funds. So how is it that we ensure that the cities are using their surtax funds effectively and for eligible purposes? So
one thing with my municipal liaisons, who I correspond with regularly, that I like to emphasize is communication. If you are unsure that something is eligible, you know, call me, email me. The worst thing that we can say is no, which is not the worst thing. The worst thing you can do is spend the money and then find out later that it was not an eligible project. It has happened before.
And how do we find that out?
Well, we find that out through our audit process. All the municipalities have to be audited, some more often than others. It just depends on the size. If you get more money, it just makes sense that you get audited more often. And so that's our larger cities who have larger populations, obviously. So it's not a pretty thing. We don't like to see it happen, and we do everything on the front end to make sure that cities aren't spending money in an ineligible way, so that we can avoid all that headache down the future. Of course, the smaller cities don't get audited as often, so that's maybe every 2 to 3 years. Their audit cycles every 2 to 3 years.
And in fairness to the cities, I think, over time, it's been 20 years since we've been collecting money. They have gotten better to the point where we don't have a lot of audit findings anymore, right? Not these major findings
Not
where
major
we're
findings.
having to take back funds.
And we take pride in that. And I think that has to do a lot with communication, making sure that the municipalities know you're going to not like what you hear from us if you don't follow these steps. And I get good questions, going back to what I was saying earlier, I get good questions all the time from municipalities, from Doral, from Homestead, such that I don't know whether or not it's eligible or not. So I have a good relationship with the county attorney's office. We meet with them regularly to make sure that everything that they're asking, either is or isn't. Usually we have a good hunch of what it's going to be, but of course we always want to make sure for the benefit of the municipality, because, we could be wrong, and it would be great if they could use it for...
And it's dynamic, right? We were seeing a lot of changes, due to technology and a lot of changes in transportation. So we're getting questions, are EV charging stations an allowable use? Well, that wasn't contemplated 20 years ago.
No, it wasn't.
Right? I'm sure any day now we'll get a city wanting to do urban air mobility.
Which is a very scary thought.
It's scary, but it's coming. It's a question of when.
It is.
So it's that landscape is always changing. So we're constantly having to kind of revisit these questions.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true. The municipalities are doing great as far as compliance. I don't think that we've really seen any major issues in the past 2 years.
Keep up the good work, cities.
That's right. So I don't know. It's a really exciting job because we constantly get to see these ridership numbers going up. Municipalities come out with new ideas for how to spend their funds, or they add another vehicle to their fleet, whether it's their fixed route or their on-demand services that they provide. And every year our surtax increases just, slightly. And actually during the COVID years, it increased more than we had expected. So that was a great turnout. And municipalities have had more funds to spend on their transit.
And what I love about the municipal program as well is I call it our living laboratory, with 33 cities doing, their own thing. In a way, they get to experiment. And not much because they're smaller, they're much more nimble.
Right.
The county is this large bureaucracy and a large system, and it's got this core system that it has to operate and maintain.
Yeah.
They don't always have the ability to experiment as often or as quickly, right?
It's true. And one thing that you just said reminded me that, we have large cities, we have small cities, and lots of times they learn from one another.
Right.
And they do so through our quarterly transportation partner and coordinating committee that we hold virtually. And once a year we meet for our annual workshop. So that takes that fourth quarter meeting, if you will, in person. And it's a great opportunity for the municipalities to learn from one another. We try to get presentations from all different types of municipalities, because there's going to be another municipality out there that's listening and wondering, oh, they're a lot like us in terms of population or zoning. What are they doing with their funds, and what could we be doing that we might not already be doing? So I'm constantly trying to get the municipalities to share information, be open with one another, because that's really how we can grow to the best of our potential. Like, if we don't get ideas from others, we have to rely solely on ourselves. We just can't grow to the maximum possibility that we can. Yeah. So I always try to foster that communication with the municipalities.
And Mariana, you're so passionate about what you do, and you bring this great energy into the program and new ideas all the time, and great organization too, right? So you have the creativity, but you're also very kind of organized, and it's a great combination.
Thank you.
So thank you for all your efforts in the municipal program. And now let's get to know you a little better. We probably should have started there. Tell the viewers a little bit about yourself. I mean, you're not an engineer, you're not a planner per se. So how did your career trajectory bring you to this point? You could start, now and work way backwards, or the other way around. Whatever is your pleasure.
I will try to keep this brief, but so I'm born and raised in Miami. Very proud of it.
A fellow unicorn, right?
Yes, it is increasingly for my
Miamians.
generation. Yes, I love Miami. I have my family here. The weather is beautiful. You know that you love the city that you're in when every time you go to vacation, you come back. And you're just like, I'm home, So
that smell of mildew at MIA always makes me realize
that's not what I was referring to. But it's the warmth, it's the food, it's the scenery, it's the ocean.
The light. I've always said the light in Miami is special.
The light, the skies, yes. So yes, I was born and raised here. Went away to UCF for my undergrad. Got a bachelor's in marketing undergrad and minor in international business. For many years, I thought I wanted to go the international relations route. And when I met you at my first job, I think we found that in common. We liked we
were going to be diplomats and change the world.
That's right.
And then we decided, well, maybe we'll start with changing Miami. Let's just start small.
Charity begins at home, right? You gotta start local, and that's where we can have the most impact too. Right. So I had aspirations for that, but in general, just working in the public sector, because this is where we can affect change. In my perspective, and what I was drawn to was working in the public sector because it touches so many people's lives, and transportation touches so many people's lives. I remember specifically when you and I first met. Like you say, I wasn't a transportation expert, but I was very passionate about how can we get Miami better connected, and I showed you my ideas, and then you laughed and you said, "Oh, haha, young grasshopper, you have no idea."
What a jerk I was!
You have no idea.
I admired your passion.
Right. But it's because it seems so straightforward. But then when you're that young, you don't realize all the barriers in place and how these ideas have been proposed before, but they are very difficult to get off the ground because there has to be buy-in. There has to be community buy-in, so that, it can't just be a unilateral decision, and the community has to grow and in a way that everyone is still in harmony with each other. So, and
that's where we first met, was Miami Downtown Development Authority, where we worked. Then we both ended up working at City of Coral Gables.
That's right. Yeah.
Right, in economic development, and now here at CITT. So. Yes. You must be doing something right if I keep hiring you. So keep it up.
Thank you. And I also would like to say that I feel like I wouldn't be as good at my job if I didn't have the mentor that I had before me, Mr. Nestor Toledo.
Yes.
He really
shout out to
paved
Nestor.
the way. Yes, shout out to Nestor. So he taught me a lot, and I'm very blessed to have many of the mentors that I've had in my life, yourself included, of course. So. Thank you.
We miss you, Nestor. I know he's watching. And so unfortunately, we're running out of time. So I just want to touch on one last thing, which is you recently participated in the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce Leadership Miami program.
I did.
So tell us about that.
It's a wonderful program. I'll just be very honest about what my experience was. When I first got into it, I thought, I'm not so sure about this program. Like, what is the point of this? And being a Miami native, I learned more about what they were doing. They had these field trips that we went on, and we learned more about the different parts of Miami. And I thought, wow, even though I've grown up and lived here most of my life, I didn't know all of these wonderful things. I didn't know that we got our water out of this underground aquifer and the work that we do, and how it's, among the cleanest water in the nation. The ports that we have, the Coast Guard, I saw both the air station and the sea port area that we have here. They do tremendous efforts to save lives, in the water, and that we have that sort of presence here of protection. And
so it exposes you to a lot of things that you otherwise wouldn't be.
To things to be proud about in this county, in this community. And so I'm a huge fan of it. I highly encourage anyone who's interested in doing Leadership Miami to do it. I met a great group of friends who I still keep in contact with today, who I know I'll be friends with for life. And I'm not just saying that lightly. So I highly recommend it. It was a great experience, a great leadership experience. So actually the most important part was raising money for a nonprofit. They paired us with a nonprofit organization that had an identified need or needs, and we raised money, and we put the project together. We found the people who were the artists to do the murals in this particular place that we were assigned, or that we matched with, I should say. And it's just such a fulfilling experience too.
And as you said, you make friends for life, which is great.
I made friends for life. Yes.
And I know we're going to be friends for life, Mariana. So thank you for, first of all, thank you for joining me on the program.
Thank you.
And you had nothing to be nervous about. You hit it out of the park. And thank you for everything you do and for who you are. You're a wonderful person.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
And unfortunately, that is all the time we have here on Mobility Matters. But you can find us here every other Thursday from 9 to 10 a.m., hosted here in this beautiful space by community newspapers. Once again, my name is Javier Betancourt with the CITT. Thank you, Mariana Price, with the CITT as well for being my guest today. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.